No, Cookie, I'm not buying a Tesla so you can support Elon Musk. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome back to JL's Book Club, where we don't talk about Fight Club because I didn't read Fight Club. We've got 2 books this month, and we're doing this natural light. I figured it's spring, it's still a little bit light out, so rather than have the bags of eyes in the morning when we usually record these, I'll have my natural bags of eyes because I'm a sleepy looking person who doesn't sleep a lot. Before we get to this month's books, obviously, beverage of the month and still no repeats. This one I found in my refrigerator. I don't know what my cinematographer is purchasing, but hopefully this was done with her credit card. Milky's strawberry flavor. Hello Kitty. It's Korea's #1 cream soda. So to all my Korean fans and Patreon subscribers, BTS or whatever. I don't speak Korean, so I figured I'd just throw it out there. I'm trying to respect my fans everywhere, not just North America. Okay, folks, in Australia and Europe. So, 2 books. The first one is a book that made the Times 2024 Best 100 Books of the Year. It's called Reboot by Justin Taylor. And as I was reading this book, my cinematographer was careful to note that I looked like I was reading some girly romance book. And it sure looks that way, doesn't it? And but this is it was called Very Funny by a lot of book critics, and it's about a guy, David, who is a former child actor and is now a video game voiceover person, and they want to reboot the show that he had been on as a kid. And it's sort of, I think it's kind of not meta, but the book itself, the story is written as a sort of memoir, but it's also written in a kind of, like he's rebooting his life. Like his memoir is almost a reboot of his life. And it is witty. I will say this as somebody who, some of you enjoy it, some of you get very frustrated by it. I know a lot of pop culture references. We can sort of, anything youth related after 2010 and anything rap related post 2009, I'm mostly lost. But for the most part, I have a pretty good comprehensive knowledge of pop culture. This book and this author really play to that. So I sort of enjoyed that aspect of it. It's a breeze of a novel. It's pretty fun to read. Did I think the payoff was as good as I hoped? Because it was about halfway through the book that I realized, oh, this isn't leading up to a reboot of a show. This is just like he's writing his memoir as if it is a reboot series coming out on Netflix or something. But it's I enjoy things that look at our modern landscape of art and entertainment, and that's pretty much what this book is. I liked it. I wish I could give it the like, oh my God, guys, go get this. I think many of you might enjoy it, but I bought it because I want to be a literary snob, and the New York Times put it in their top 100 of the year. I liked it, but I don't think I loved it. So if that means something to you, but if you're interested in sort of, you're probably already like, no, JL, my dollars are very limited. I'm already giving you $3 a month. What do you think? I am made of money to just go willy-nilly buy books that maybe I'd like? Well, that's what I do, okay? And I liked it, didn't love it. Cookie gives it 1 ass lick. And that's a true story. What's going on right now is a vigorous licking of her ass, which I think means she did not like it. But I liked it, didn't love it. I know that sounds sort of negative, and I feel like I'm acting as if this author is going to see this review. But sometimes we get into this world where I'll give a movie a B+, and people will be like, so you didn't like it? I go, wait, what world? I'm sorry, MIT valedictorian, where a B+ sucks to you? Or what bullshit school did you go to that you were like, I had a 4.5 GPA. Where'd you go to school? Apex Tech? Oh, okay, so my grades, when I give something a B+, that's a Georgetown Law Williams College B+, okay? So it's good. It's a good book. It was fun to read. I enjoy, as a pop culture fan, I enjoyed that. But loved it. I think I'm fairly sparing in terms of when I love a book. You know it when I do. But I liked it. So any pop culture fans looking for and it's probably going to be on paperback soon. I don't know when, but you know, and once again, I'm not the be all end all of books. You know, sometimes I might like something, you might love it, or vice versa. And yeah, I liked it. But if you need me to give it the hardcore approval, then you're not getting it, okay? The other book that I read this month was The Wager by David Grann. Now, David Grann wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which is an I loved it level book. I loved it so much that a really solid Martin Scorsese film made me very disappointed, because I thought the book was A+, I thought the movie was B+, even maybe a B or B-. Why I started to get into Cornel West territories of B minus as opposed to Bibi Netanyahu, who's in F in terms of diplomacy, humanity, and morality. But yes, The Wager. This was like Barnes & Noble's book of 2023. It just came out on paperback. Fortunately, I was lent this copy by my mommy, so I didn't have to buy a copy of the book. But I would have felt really dumb. And this is a foreshadowing of something. Foreshadowing. Get ready. This might be a callback. To read a book and then have it come out on paperback like 6 days after I start reading it or something. It just got released on paperback, so if you like my review of this, or if you read Killers of the Flower Moon and didn't get to The Wager, it's on paperback now. Always trying to save my fans some money. Hey, if you can save money on the paperback, some of that money can come my way via Patreon. Okay? You're out there playing checkers. I'm playing financial chess. Okay, so The Wager is about a ship, British ship, part of a fleet that's going to war with Spain. And let me tell you something. For all these Joe Rogan types who will be like, you know, I hunt elk with a bow and arrow. Yeah, with a bow and arrow designed by like Smith & Wesson. And I do a cold plunge to get my... Let me tell you something. Humanity, we have come far. Humanity was a real fuck for most of its existence. And these are people, royals and people, they had naval skills and ships and guns, and it sucked. All I kept thinking was, boy, oh boy, I'm happy I was born in 1979 and not 1699. Ugh. Hey, Cookie, that's fucking carpet. You know, like I said, 1699, you'd be free to dig up the floor and everybody would just say, well, go at it, you beast of burden. But we're in modern society. That's right. And she has now gone into her corner of shame where she's like, I'm getting picked on. I don't like this. You know, in The Wager, that might be insubordination or mutiny. Okay? And you'd be hanging outside, and I don't mean just chilling. So, sorry for that, guys. Cookie is, upset. I'm leaving in a couple of days for a long trip, and once she sees that suitcase come out, oh boy, she gets upset. But speaking of long journeys, The Wager. So it's about this, and David Grann, great historical narrative writer. The ship, South America, by the Cape of whoever, or the whatever. And it's just dealing with the storms is bad enough. And the violence of being a sailor. In these like rarely charted or fairly uncharted lands and seas. But then, of course, things go wrong. They lose a lot of people. They're on deserted islands. Deaths happen. Not afraid of going into Ron Reagan Jr.'s tone. Let me tell you something as Ron Reagan Jr. If I was on a deserted island, I might be afraid of going to hell. It's a very, the way to piece these together from old narratives, old memoirs, shipping logs, etc. It's a great feat of sort of journalistic writing by David Grann. And the thing I'm most struck by in the book, and maybe some of you might find this to be wokeness, but what I really liked was that so many natives came to help these guys. And it's just fascinating when you see these people who've lived in these areas and are experts at different things. And then eventually the white man scares them off or brutally beats them or drags them into slavery or leers at their women. And, I know that seems woke because somebody on Fox News would say, but we brought them technology and civilization. Well, he also killed most of them. So there's a trade-off there. They're not really getting to enjoy lots of your bounty when they're dead. But it was just telling, and at one point there was a scene where like they had been helping this tribe had been helping them, giving them food, just seeing them as fellow humans, and they just got a feeling of like the group that would end up kind of being part of the mutiny. They were just kind of like, yeah, we're not coming back. They were like, and then they never came back after the men started leering after their women and taking more than their fair share. And I was like, good on you, ancient tribe of good people. You could sense danger. It's a very interesting book in terms of what it says about history, in terms of who writes history, how history is preserved. So there's some layers to this book. And I'm going to read you one quick passage before I give my final judgment. It's the final judgment. Okay, so this is towards the end of the book. Strikingly, there was one surviving castaway who never had a chance to record his testimony in any form, not in a book or in a deposition, not even in a letter, and that was John Duck, the free black seaman who had gone ashore with Morris's abandoned party. Duck had withstood the years of deprivation and starvation, and he had managed with Morris and 2 others to trek to the outskirts of Buenos Aires. But there his fortitude was of no avail, and he suffered what every free black seaman dreaded. He was kidnapped and sold into slavery. Morris didn't know where his friend had been taken, whether to the mines or to the fields. Duck's fate was unknown, as is the case for so many people whose stories can never be told. Much like my comedy when I pass away. You know, once the 19 fans I have pass away, it'll be like I never existed as an artist. Not to compare that to slavery, but it's, you know, doesn't feel great for me either. I believe he will end his days in bondage, Morris wrote, there being no prospect of his ever returning to England. Empires preserve their power with the stories that they tell, but just as critical are the stories they don't. The dark silences they impose, the pages they tear out. So I felt like I should have had Scott Pelley glasses when I said, and then tear out. I enjoyed the book. It's a good book. It's a very good book. What am I saying? Killers of the Flower Moon is my favorite by him. I'm not going to just... Killers of the Flower Moon like blew me away. This was really good. And it's only like 260 pages, so well, in paperback it might be more. But it's a very good book. I'm impressed by what he does in general, but it's a very good book, and if I didn't have Killers of the Flower Moon to compare it to, I might have been like, this book was awesome. But there's another reason why maybe I didn't love this book as much as other people did, though I did think it was very good. Better than, if you're ranking them, I liked it more than Reboot, but I liked both books. But I read several years ago In the Heart of the Sea, which was made into a shitty movie by Ron Howard, starring Chris Hemsworth. Now, speaking of great movies starring Chris Hemsworth, directed by Ron Howard that nobody saw, Rush, phenomenal movie about 2 race car drivers. Phenomenal movie. Go see that one. But In the Heart of the Sea was awesome. I mean, but In the Heart of the Sea, there's a lot of military issues and patriotic issues, because this is like this was when vessels were sent out by like the governments and the king and the crown. Then The Heart of the Sea is basically like a whaling company, like a whaling vessel in like the 1800s in America that inspired Moby Dick. Speaking of free black seamen, and if I were to give you a recommendation, no disrespect to David Grant, I've already sung his praises overall as a writer, I would go with In the Heart of the Sea over The Wager. So look at that. I didn't even read this for this review, but I feel it's that important that you get the high-level integrity reviews. Okay. The cinematographer saw me gently placing a paperback book on my glasses and got up like I was killing a living creature. All is safe. Now, next month, guys, and look at this. I am taking a cross-country train trip back and forth, and then I have a train trip back and forth from Toronto coming up. Now, I'm not going to read all 5 of these books in the next 4 to 5 weeks, but the 2 books I'm guaranteeing you I will read: Careless People, a new memoir, a tell-all memoir by a woman who worked at Meta, Facebook's parent company. This is spilling the Asperger tea, from what I hear. And then a book that made the Times Top 10 and was released on paperback 3 days after I bought it. But it was recommended both by the New York Times and Anthony Jeselnik, in his book reviews on TikTok, said, I read 10 books that I want to recommend to you. I've read 71 books this year, and the best book I read this year is called Martyr. And then I killed her mom. Anyway, that was just adding like a Jeselnik joke at the end of that. But the 2 books I will absolutely review for sure are these 2. But then, because there are new besties, I'm doing Russian Boy Spring. I don't know what I'm going to do for summer, but Russian Boy Spring, 3 books on Russia for April, May, and June. Gulag won the Pulitzer Prize by Anne Applebaum. I've had this for a while. Khrushchev, The Man in His Era, also won the Pulitzer Prize. This will be May's book. And then Gorbachev, His Life and Times, which won no awards. Loser. But I hear it's a good book also. I think it made the Times Top 100 that year. So light is fading. We have a fireplace. I feel like the ambiance is good for this review where I was talking about Free Black Semen and Moby Dick and other things that will trigger the YouTube algorithm to demonetize this video. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope you can still pick me up as the light fades, both outside in my soul and in my career. But remember, books, they're like documentaries for smart people.